To say joins us at the table. We love it when you come into the studio. It's nice to have you in person. I want to talk to you about your vote last week. You voted against to codify Roe v. Wade. Why did you vote that way? What was your thinking?
Well, I have a history in my time in public life of being pro-life, but that vote was more than just codifying Roe, which is why they lost even people who typically support Roe versus Wade on our side, people like Senators Collins and Murkowski. But basically, it was more expansive. It went beyond Roe, and it was a piece of legislation I think they knew was going to fail. We had that vote actually a few weeks ago, and I think Senator Schumer did it to satisfy a political constituency that wanted that vote, but knew it was going to fail.
He thinks it's going to galvanize Democrats in the midterms.
Right.
Is there any concern on the Republican side that this issue could, in fact, galvanize Democrats?
Well, I think that they're looking for something to distract from the economy, inflation, and the border, and some of the issues that they would rather not talk about. I think this is an issue, this is a clear pivot on their part to try and get on something that they think they can play offense with. But a lot of it's going to come down to, and the politics around this issue is very contentious, always has been.
Fraught is a good word to describe
fraught is a good word.
On both sides.
It is. And so how that plays politically remains to be seen, because there are many places around the country, obviously, where if you're a candidate running and you're a pro-life candidate, that's going to work to your political advantage.
But most Americans, it seems, support Roe v. Wade. Would you support it with some restrictions?
Well, I think to your point, Gail, if you look at the way this polls, Roe versus Wade, basically the decision, the Supreme Court decision said that the state's interest becomes compelling at the point of viability, which keeps moving back. And, right now, 65% of Americans don't think you ought to have abortions past the first trimester, so into the second or third trimester. 80% believe you shouldn't have them after the second trimester. And we're really out of step with the world. I mean, we're one of only 7 countries in the world that allows abortions after 20 weeks, and those include, of course, North Korea and China. Most European nations, France is at 14 weeks, Germany's at 12 weeks. So most countries have found a political consensus around restrictions that I guess, would start much sooner in a pregnancy.
Is that where you are?
Yeah. I was going to say, so why not support something that had those restrictions in those timelines that you speak of?
I think the question for a lot of people is going to be, is it a human life, and when does life begin? I think what you're going to see is state legislatures, because this doesn't do away with it, it just returns it to the states,
state level, yeah,
are going to have to find political consensus, and some states are probably going to define it differently.
So
my position has always been exceptions, rape, incest, life of the mother, but a ban.
I'm wondering if you're still enjoying your job, and I'm asking you that because there's a best-selling book out right now. I know you've heard of it, This Will Not Pass. It says, you considered not running for re-election this year, but Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said, hold on just a second, Senator. So first, are you enjoying your job, and why is it true that you considered not running for re-election?
Well, I did.
Is that a good smile?
I've got, like you, I've got grandkids now around. I did. It was a hard decision, but in the end, you do things because you think it's someplace you can make a difference. And I'd like to believe public life is still a place where you can make a difference.
In going back to the beginning discussion, there's one thought we hear so much about as you talk about when does life begin. There's a lot of talk of what the rights are of, be it a fetus, be it an unborn child, however you refer to that. What about the women and the families that we're talking about and their rights too? How do you balance that in the consideration?
Well, I think you have to be compassionate. And, the solution, if you're a pro-life person, and I am, and if you believe that's a human life, then you believe it needs to be protected. But there's a mom, and a lot of vulnerable moms, and I think that the responsibility for people who hold a pro-life position isn't to state that and check the box. You've got to actually demonstrate that you're willing to help care for moms who are going to carry babies to the point of birth.
Or give moms a chance to have that say, potential moms, to control some of what is their body also. Trust in them and in doctors also.
One of the questions is, well, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, I think that you're right, and that's why, you know, as you look at this issue, as I've said, you got to do it in a way. I think there's a compassionate way and understand that your impact. Now, I'm a middle-aged white guy. I'm probably not the person who should be talking about a subject like this, but I also have a wife and two very accomplished daughters who are pro-life. And
But you're a middle-aged white guy in a position of power to make a difference on something.
and I think you have to
millions of
listen.
women,
You have to listen very carefully what people are saying. But in the end, if I'm going to err, I'm going to err on the side of life. But I think in how you determine the course of action is going to be largely based upon where the political consensus is. And I think, you know, right now, this is a decision that's been made by 9 unelected judges, and it's now going to go back to the people and their elected representatives, which is, I think, where a lot of folks think issues like this should be decided.
It's a very big deal for a government to tell a woman she has to carry a pregnancy through to term. I think we all agree on that.
And would you tell some of your other middle-aged white men that we like middle-aged white men here at the table? Spread the word. We're very friendly here.
I think that
We like all
all
people,
points.
right? We like everybody.
that comes very
We like
close
all
to,
points of view.
That comes
Well,
very
you're
close
not
to
quite
calling
there
me
yet.
middle-aged, and I still claim to be youthful. Senator Thune, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right